Hi everyone, welcome to Bible Bites. This week I want to think a bit about what the significance of place is as a Christian disciple, as a follower of Jesus. What does place have to do with following Jesus? Well, looking at John's Gospel, the first chapter, we read that Jesus is calling people to follow him, and he calls Philip to follow him. And Philip runs straight away to go and find his brother Nathanael. And he says, "You've got to come, you've got to see this guy, Jesus of Nazareth. I think he's the Messiah." And Nathanael goes, "Wait, Jesus of Nazareth? You think this Messiah is coming from Nazareth? No, that can't be right." But he goes and meets him. And Jesus, when he meets Nathanael, says, "I saw you under the fig tree." And Nathanael is so shocked and taken aback that Jesus knew exactly where he was, this special, unique place in relation to Nathanael, that he follows Jesus. So twice in this short story at the beginning of John's Gospel, place is significant. It's significant as it's unlikely that Jesus would come from somewhere as insignificant as Nazareth. And it's unlikely that Jesus would know where exactly Nathanael was. What was the significance of the fig tree, that place for Nathanael? Perhaps it spoke a lot about who he was and what something about him was connected to that place. But Jesus knew him intimately and knew what was important to him, and so he knew the place where he was. I don't know about you, but can you think of a place where this is somewhere where I meet with God regularly? It could be somewhere that we might say is obvious, like a church or a church building, where we'd meet on a Sunday, typically, where we'd go to worship, or perhaps it's a living room or a lounge where we'd sit and have a Bible study with friends, or perhaps it's the dinner table where we'd sit and have a meal. Or perhaps it's somewhere on the cliffs going for a walk, or somewhere outside or outdoors. Are there places that are significant for you? Not only in encountering God, but in encountering other people. Because these are the real world places where we actually do our life, where we actually do and work out our discipleship, what it means to follow Jesus. Following Jesus, obviously, sometimes I think I need to say, is not something we only do on Sunday. Following Jesus is something we do in the everyday. And well, where's the everyday? It's these significant places that we find ourselves regularly. Now, place can be a really positive aspect of our faith journeys. It can be an encouraging place. I love going to conference when I was studying and training with swim. I loved going and meeting with all the other students from across the southwest, and it was in Brunel Manor, which sadly is not running in the same way it was. But when we were meeting there, it was just brilliant to gather in that place, and you just felt comfortable and at home. And one of the things that struck me was that there are all these memories coming back from previous conferences. Or if you're lucky enough to be able to go on holiday, wherever you go, even if you don't spend much time there often, or you're only there for a small part of the year, it sometimes becomes a really significant place because there are memories made there. There's significant time spent with others in these places. Place can also be a very negative thing in relation to our faith. Place can be damaging. Place can become absolute in the sense that it just takes over our faith journey, and our faith is completely connected to a particular place, and we can't have our faith without that particular place. I want to read just a short extract from a book called Resourcing Renewal by Martin Atkins. Now, he writes, and it's quite punchy stuff. He writes about how place is important, but how it can be used badly. So he says this, that a crucial expression of our being a Christian is intrinsically connected to a place. And for many, seemingly, no other. Many of us give and leave money to the church, often sizable sums as expression of our gratitude for the place where we found God, love, perhaps my partners in marriage, deep friendships, and support through terrible times. Such financial generosity sometimes enables new and vital mission-shaped ministries to arise. Other times, the leaving of legacies and the like enable, deliberately or innocently, the postponing of closure and the perpetuation of a status quo cushioned from the ill winds of change by a healthy bank balance. That's quite punchy stuff. That makes me think a lot. Because when a place, or even a building, becomes so important to us that our faith only makes sense when we have that place or have that building, something really not right happens, in our relationship with Jesus, because that's what following Jesus is all about, the relationship we have with Jesus and the relationship we have with his body, the church, those around us that are following Jesus, and how we outwork that in our mission to the world to demonstrate God's love. Now, when that becomes bound up specifically to one place and one church building, then we become at risk of falling into a trap of idolising that building or idolising that place. And sometimes that can be, like Atkins writes, that can be really subtle. It can be just the comfort of knowing we've got enough money in the bank, we can ride out most of the storms, and boy, are we in a storm right now. We can just last the course, and that's fine. We don't need to do much because we have this place and we have everything as it is now. We won't ever need to change. There's a challenge here, and I want to land with this, is what significant places can you think of that are significant for you in terms of your faith? And the second is this: where have certain places or even buildings become more important to you than our actual fundamental relationship with Jesus and the body of the church?